What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about the most frequently asked questions that we get with the Starks. It has been 2 years, many hours, many rides, and I have let a lot of people ride these bikes. But before we get to that, like and subscribe. We really appreciate anybody that comes across us. So first question, hands down, that I always get is, how fast is it? Is it fast? Yeah, it's fast. Top speed's realistically about mid 90s. You can change gearing, you can get these things well over 100 mile an hour and still have plenty of usable power at the bottom. It is plenty fast. Even without the 80 horsepower, just with the 60 horsepower, it is plenty. I have hit 90 something on dirt myself, and my wife's hit about 86 on just a hair scramble that we were riding. Second question that we always get is, how heavy is it? Which ironically, a lot of people think that electric bikes are light, and these things are kind of heavy. Sitting on the scales, ready to go, ready to ride, they're about 270. Low 260s for the MX if you leave the stock paper mache tubes in them. But if you are like us, where you set them up for racing, woods, we got bibs, some guards, hand guards and everything. This one, fully set up with bibs and everything, is about 271. A lot of people seem to think they're light because I think they are carrying the thought process of like a Sur-Ron or like a Talaria, and you just think that the electric is lighter when realistically battery technology isn't really there yet when you come to the size of the battery that you need. The other thing that I get a lot when people go ride it, because the first thing they get off the bike and they're like, wow, it's like way easier to control. The throttle's not snappy, because some people just seem to think that the electric is going to be impossible to control. It's just going to like rip out from under you because it just has unlimited torque. And no, they're actually just like a dirt bike. I mean, even in a pretty high horsepower mode, like if you're respectful of it, and if you're a green rider and you're very respectful, you could ride it in 60 horsepower and like, oh wow, it's snappy, but it's still plenty controllable. It's just like a dirt bike. I mean, you can hop on these things and just get it figured out pretty quickly. So everyone asks, how long can it go? Which no one ever really looks at it in range when it comes to miles. I think most people think of time. They think of how much time, and it's very subjective. If you're out the motocross track, if you're fast, it's 35 to 45 minutes. If you are just a Joe Blow riding in the trails with your buddies, 2 to 3 hours. That's going to be one of the things that it just purely comes down to what you're doing. And look out for our range video. We're going to make a range encyclopedia video coming in soon. And coming from that, a lot of people ask about how fast it can charge. If you have just a wall outlet or a small generator, realistically from zero, you're realistically going to be charging about 3.5 to 4.5 hours if it's just on a standard wall outlet. And that's at 1.8 kilowatts or 1800 watts. If you slow charge it, which we like doing whenever we just come home, just crank it down to 300 watts, it takes about a day. But if you have a 240 volt, like a welder socket at home, or like an L2 socket for your car, or if you have a 240 volt generator, it can charge in about an hour and a half to 2 hours from zero to full. It ends up being about 1.5% a minute when you're in the meat of the charge, like 10% to like 90%. It's about 1.5% a minute. And then people ask if you can change the batteries. You can. If you want to do it the right way, you would take the plastics off, you would take, the skid plate off, and there's a bolt here, bolt here, bolt here, and then there's 2 plugs here, and you just drop it out. This battery is like 95 pounds, 100 pounds. So I can do it alone. It kind of sucks. I've done a couple of races where we swapped the battery mid-race. The other problem is these batteries are like $3,000. So it's not something that, like, unless you have a lucrative financial situation where you can really do that, it's not something. It's not like the Sur-Rons where you can just pop the top, slide it out, slide it in. I mean, Sur-Ron batteries are still like $3,000 or $4,000, but or the free rides. The free rides do it. The Talarias do it. Some of the other bike brands that are coming out, like Flux Primo and Dust Moto, I think they're working on replaceable batteries being a mainstay, which I actually really agree with, because then you can kind of cater the battery size to the situation that you are in. Then I get people who change a little bit. They know a little bit more about the nitty gritty. They change sprockets on their gas bikes to change where the speed and the power is. And they ask that if it will help range. And my answer to you is yes, but it is super subjective. It depends on what you're riding. If you're doing a lot of highway speeds or like, 2-track dirt roads, then yeah, you probably want to extend the sprockets out. You either want to go up in the front or down in the rear to give you more top speed, because you want to be able to extend it. These bikes really don't like being high in the R's for a long time. And that high load and high speed seem to be the things that are the two biggest drains on the battery. So I would not go changing the sprockets for long distance if you're just riding around in the woods. Stock gearing is actually pretty good for if you're just riding around in the woods, and some moto tracks. If you're on a fast moto track, it's different.
Some bikes come with different front sprocket.
Good point. When we got our MXs, one had a 14, one had a 13, and when we got our EX, it had a 12 on the front, and it was supposed to come with a 13. So do your own diligence, do your own research, find out what you want. Most people seem to be running around a 13 front and a 48 rear, and that kind of ends up being the do-it-all for everything. That's actually what I've got both of these bikes running. Actually, this one might be on a 47, but it's pretty close. And a lot of people ask if you can take the charger with you, and some of you that have done some digging, you realize that the charger comes in the stand, and I don't know if you know, but the whole stand weighs about 50 pounds. You can take the charger out of it. We have taken our charger out, and we have put it in a gas can. And I'm not gonna teach you how to do it in this video. I've got another video that explains this charger, but still, this whole setup is about 24 pounds. It's about 24 pounds. The charger itself weighs about 17 or 18 pounds. Stark is working on a smaller charger and a bigger charger, like a backpack charger. I think they're working on like a 1 kW backpack charger. It's not my place to say. I don't know where they're at on it. They've just confirmed that they're doing it. Hopefully that comes out soon, because then, the dual sport guys can, take it, and when they go get lunch, they can plug into it like a wall outlet. Our part's hard to get. I get that a lot, because, a lot of woods guys, they just bust their bikes up. The suspension is KYB stuff. It matches the older Yamahas. Like the parts interchange with the newer stuff, but the internals, like the valve stack, is like, it's around like a 2020, 2018 Yamaha. But you can get all your fork seals, all your suspension parts, you can get them from a Yamaha dealership. Your sprockets, brakes, and all those expendable parts, the chain, that matches with a KTM. Any of the modern KTM sprockets, they just bolt right up, as well as the brake rotors and the brake pads. They come with OEM Brembo stuff, just like the KTMs. When it comes to the rest of the bike, most of it, you're gonna be getting it straight from Stark. Their parts are pretty reasonable. Like plastic kits are like 140 bucks, and for the EX, they're like 170 bucks. You can either only get red, gray, or white. A lot of people ask me, what do you do if it rains? And they don't realize that the bike is actually like mostly waterproof. One of our bikes has been completely submerged in a lake before.
And you do not have that bike anymore?
Yep, that bike is not in the garage. But I've seen multiple people go and drive it down a boat ramp, and then, get them up to here. Bike's completely submerged. They turn around and drive it up out of the boat ramp. There is a vent hose for the gear case that comes up over and comes down the other side, so you can get water into the gear case. But I mean, it's 80 milliliters of oil. You could just do an oil change, run it for a minute, do another oil change, and you're typically good. That's all what we had whenever it was completely submerged. I had a race that I fell, and I had the bike completely submerged in a river, and Stark actually reached out to me and asked me to confirm the VIN so they could do a check, because somehow they did a remote check and made sure that it was okay. What do you do if it dies? Actually, it's kind of a pretty plain answer. You just push. You push, you get towed. If you are getting towed, because this happened before in an enduro, I completely ran it dry, and somebody on a side-by-side towed me down the road, and I put it in gear, and I used engine regen while getting towed, and I got about 11% back, because they towed me up the road, and there was a little bit of single track that I had to go down to get back to the parking lot, and I had regened the battery to be able to get that. So if your bike dies, you could just bum one of your gas bike's buddies gas and have him regen for you. The other stuff is like people ask me like, where do I think the bike is its best at? And this bike is kind of a Swiss Army knife of do it at all. I actually don't like it in hard enduro, but some people really, really like it in hard enduro, but I'm kind of bad at hard enduro and I have to pick my bike up a lot. This bike, like hard enduro, as long as you have the ability to do the body language and you're not muscling the bike around, then it's different, but I wouldn't know anything about that. It's really good in enduros. It's really good in hare scrambles. It's really good in motocross. Stunting a lot, yeah. Well, I mean, electric bikes have just opened a whole nother world in stunting because you don't have the gyro force that the gas bikes do, and you could just pull off some nutty stuff. But I don't think it's really best at anything. It just does all of it pretty good. There are certain things that, like desert racing and stuff like that, it doesn't even have a home because it's just the range is just so gone. I mean, it's really good, but for 30 miles, it's not there yet. And really one of the last ones that I could think of that I had was, people ask me all the time, can you put lights on it? This is an MX, this is an EX, this one came with lights. The headlight kind of sucks when it comes to compared to like aftermarket lights. It is pretty on par with some of the newer gen stuff that you see from Beta, KTM, the LED lights. They're pretty good. You could definitely use it to get home on the road or on a trail. On the MX, there are a couple of people that make aftermarket kits to essentially rob power from something to give power to lights. You realistically could only run about 30 watts safely when it comes to headlight, taillight, whatever you're robbing power. So you could do that, but it is aftermarket stuff that you essentially have to do it all on your own. What are your questions? If you have any questions, hit them up in the comments. A little bit of discussion. I'm happy to answer them down in the comments, but appreciate you guys. Totally make sure if you're getting a Stark, make sure you use your referral. Doesn't have to be me, but use your referral before you ever put an order in or you get it picked up at the dealership if you do order it from a dealership. And don't forget, like and subscribe. It goes a huge way for us. Check us out for more content. About most frequently,
what was that word?
frequently.
Alrighty, take two.
Take two.